The shadows in the lockdown. In the early days of the global lockdown, the world seemed to pause. Cities that were once bustling with activity fell silent. Emma Harris, a 29-year-old journalist, found herself in the middle of a new reality, a reality where isolation became the norm. She had moved into a charming, albeit old, Victorian house in the suburbs just a month before the pandemic struck. Its antique charm, with creaky floorboards and dusty corners, had seemed quaint and comforting at first. Now it felt like a prison. The house had been in Emma's family for generations, passed down through the years. Her grandmother had lived there before her, and the stories of her family's history were deeply ingrained in the walls. Emma had always found solace in these stories, but now, in the quiet and solitude of lockdown, the house began to feel more like a tomb than a home. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma decided to take a break from her work. She had been covering the pandemic's impact on mental health, a grim subject that had left her feeling drained and uneasy. She needed a distraction and settled on a classic horror movie she'd saved for a rainy day. She dimmed the lights, wrapped herself in a blanket, and let the familiar chill of the film wash over her. As the movie reached its climax, she heard it, a soft scratching noise coming from the back of the house. Emma paused the film and listened intently. The scratching persisted, growing louder and more frantic. It wasn't unusual for old houses to make odd noises, but this sound was different. It was deliberate, almost purposeful. Emma took a deep breath and tried to dismiss it. "Probably just a branch against the window," she muttered, though the wind had been calm all day. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to investigate. She went to the kitchen and peered out the back window. The backyard was bathed in moonlight, the only movement coming from the occasional rustle of leaves. There was nothing there. Shrugging it off, she returned to the living room, but the unease lingered. She decided to check the locks on the doors and windows. As she walked through the house, she noticed that everything was securely fastened. She was about to return to the movie when she heard the scratching again. This time it was coming from the front door. Emma's heart raced as she approached the door, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. She peered through the peephole but saw only darkness. Hesitantly, she opened the door a crack, expecting to find a stray animal or perhaps a prankster. But there was nothing. She closed the door and locked it securely, trying to shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The scratching continued intermittently through the night. Emma tried to focus on her work, but the noise was incessant, gnawing at her sanity. Finally, in a desperate attempt to silence it, she called the police. They assured her that they would send an officer to check the area, but mentioned that with the lockdown, they were prioritizing emergency calls. Emma sat in the living room, clutching a flashlight and her phone. The scratching had ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to press in on her from all sides. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. At around 2 a.m., a loud bang jolted her from her thoughts. Emma nearly dropped her flashlight. The sound had come from the attic, a place she hadn't ventured into since moving in. She had been told it was empty, just a dusty space filled with old furniture and forgotten belongings. But now it seemed to call to her with a sinister allure. With a mix of dread and determination, Emma grabbed a broom for protection and ascended the narrow staircase leading to the attic. Each step creaked ominously under her weight. The attic door was old and heavy, and when she opened it, a gust of stale, cold air hit her face. The attic was dimly lit by a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Dust particles danced in the air as Emma swept her flashlight around the room. Her gaze fell upon a large, ornate mirror draped with a dusty sheet. She had never seen it before, but it seemed oddly out of place amidst the cobwebs and forgotten relics. As she approached the mirror, she noticed something peculiar. There was a smudge on the glass shaped like a handprint. The handprint was smeared as if someone had pressed against it desperately. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She wiped the dust off the mirror, revealing an intricate frame, but the smudge remained, a ghostly reminder of a presence she couldn't see. Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut behind her with a deafening bang. Emma spun around, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Panic surged through her as she tried to open the door, but it was jammed. The scratching noise began again, louder than ever, now coming from within the walls of the attic. Emma's heart pounded as she backed away from the mirror, the scratching growing more frantic. The air felt thick, suffocating. She turned her flashlight toward the mirror and gasped. The reflection showed not only her own terrified face, but also a dark, shadowy figure lurking behind her. It was as if the figure was trying to reach through the glass. In a desperate bid to escape, Emma hurled herself at the attic door, trying to force it open. The door finally gave way, and she stumbled down the stairs, her legs weak and shaking. She bolted into the living room and locked the door behind her. The scratching stopped abruptly, replaced by an oppressive silence. Emma sat on the couch, staring at the front door, her mind racing. What had she seen? Had it been a trick of the light or something far more sinister? The next morning, Emma found the attic door ajar. She hesitated but forced herself to inspect the room once more. The mirror was gone. In its place was a note, scrawled in a shaky hand. "I'm always watching." Emma moved out of the house that day, unable to shake the terror she had experienced. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a prison of her worst fears. To this day, she never returned to that place, and the memories of the shadows in the lockdown continue to haunt her. As the world began to emerge from the lockdown, Emma's story became a chilling reminder of how isolation can sometimes reveal the darkest corners of our fears. And for those who live in old houses with secrets of their own, the shadows are never too far away.